Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we have some huge talent tree shakeups for Ret Paladins, a little bit for Paladin as well, but specifically for Ret Paladin stuff, including a lot of stuff that I asked for. And so we're going to go through it all here, and we're going to talk about, what it perhaps means and everything as well. So we'll start here with the notes before we go look at the actual tree in the game. So hero talent changes, Herald of the Sun. Now, pretty much, this is all basically healing stuff. It's mostly holy changes here. However, with Templar, we have some direct Retribution Paladin changes here. Some haste nerf, Empyrean Hammer damage nerfed. Cries of Redemption now deals 80% of damage to nearby enemies. So this is more. So this is a buff for that. And then a nerf to the defensive for Ret specifically. This was always going to be the case. It was absurdly powerful, honestly. And so, again, now let's get it to a good spot and then stop nerfing it, right? I don't know exactly what the best spot would be for this. It's not something I've been really tracking when I'm playing. This shield or whatever, this barrier that it gives you. But it's been reduced by 25%. That's probably fine. I know some people were speculating it could be like 50% that it's nerfed by. So overall fine there. So overall here, this isn't nothing huge. It's a minor single target nerf, and then some a little bit of cleave buff in a way. So nothing huge here. Just some minor tunings. What do we always say on this channel? They're gonna tune us. They can tune us to be the #1 damage, and we can have a crappy gameplay, or they can tune us to be the worst damage, and we have great gameplay. Like, that's just tuning. There's nothing we can really do about that except for say, hey, we want to be stronger. Then we have Holy, then Ret. So first of all, they did this quickly enough. Crusader Aura talent is no longer automatically chosen for Ret. Instead, Greater Judgment is. This is exactly what I suggested. Actually, I suggested moving this, but it's an optional talent that we'll probably never, ever take. And so there we go. Greater Judgment's now default. Consecrated Blade is now default. So Consecrated Blade is when you press, it was on the talent choice with Divine Hammer, and now Consecrated Blade is always baseline, which it also opens up for perhaps Divine Hammer being used at some point. Because Consecrated Blade was so good, you're just always going to take Consecrated Blade. And now it's baseline for Ret. You learn it at level 11, and so you press your blade and you consecrate. It's baseline now. Now, if you were not using either and you were still pressing your consecrate, now you can play that way if you want. That's just kind of like a damage loss to press that global compared to other choice. But yeah, we no longer have consecrate anymore. We just cast it with our blade. New talent, Holy Flame. So this is interesting. This is, man, oh man, I kind of feel bad for this one. Okay, and we'll talk about it in the tree even more. But so Divine Holy Flames is a new talent. It's going to replace Vanguard of Justice, which I just did a video about, saying that, hey, if you take all this stuff together, it's actually kind of good. But I have been hating on it a lot before that video. So Divine Storm deals 10% increased damage. So this is something you're going to want to take for AoE, right? In most cases. Now, it's on a choice node, right? So but that's like your first thought when you read this. And when it hits an enemy affected by your expurgation, it spreads the effect up to 4 targets hit. So then you're like, oh, okay, what the heck's the point of that? So it's on the choice node with your blade ability that spreads your blade to all the targets or whatever. And so for major AoE, you would not take this. And we'll talk about it more, but I think this is trying to still be a cleave talent. Just how a single target / cleave talent, kind of how they were trying to make the other one be, right? This one's a little bit more straightforward, and we'll get more into it. But you also deal 3% increased holy damage to targets burning from your expurgation. So this is kind of like, again, just a small singles target buff there. So when you're and we'll talk about it more, but so let's say you're single targeting real quick, and you get your free Divine Storm from Empyrean Legacy. Now, whatever's hit by that, if you take this talent, whatever's hit by that will also put the dot on the enemy's hit or whatever, right? So it's once every 20 seconds, so it's not going to be constantly up, which could be an issue. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. You might be want to cast Divine Storm randomly. It might make it worth casting Divine Storm. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work, but it's clearly intended to still be like a cleave thing. Justicar's Vengeance, nerfed. we always talk about how worthless this talent is. We're nerfed. Now here comes a really exciting one. So this is one that I've been calling for. Blessed Champion's now 1 point instead of 2. So that's the one that makes your Judgment and Crusader Strikes cleave. Before you had to do 2 points in it because it was only 2 targets, and then it was 4 targets with 2 points. Well, now it's just 1 point, which is what we've been calling for. However, they did add and the other one was Vanguard of Justice, which was 2 points, which is now Holy Flames, which is 1 point. So now, before we read the next part, we would have 0 2-point talents. But they did add 2-point talents, and that's Heart of Crusader. You can double up on Heart of Crusader, which is your Crusader Strike and auto attack damage, and your Zealot's Fervor, which is your attack speed increase, which goes good with Crusader Strike auto attacks. Holy Flames is now a choice node with Blade of Vengeance. We were just talking about that. Empyrean Legacy is moved to Vanguard Justice, which is a really good move. And we'll talk about some of the really good placements as well. And then Vanguard of Justice has been removed. So this is a lot of changes. As far as tuning goes, there wasn't much tuning other than a slight nerf overall to your single target, basically, right? A little bit of a nerf there if you're playing Templar, which in single target, a lot of times we're probably going to be playing Templar, right? Unless, again, tuning, unless they just tune, the Herald of the Sun to be just dominant in everything, then that'll be the case. So let's talk about this. So first of all, we can look over here on the Paladin side, and we see right away Crusader Aura no longer automatically selected despite being ret, and I do have Greater Judgment automatically selected for me. This allows me to just easily grab Devotion Aura or whatever I want to grab. Not necessarily anything else up here that I do really, really want to grab, but you can have your Devotion Aura without having to take also Crusader Aura. So that's really cool. It's a good change. Nothing notably the touch of Light or Incandescence yet. Still not sure what they're thinking on these two, but good change there. It absolutely needed change for sure. When we come over here, let's talk over here first. Empyrean Legacy is the same. So it used to be over here. And it was on a choice node with Blade of Vengeance. So for single target, you would take Empyrean Legacy, and for AoE, you would take Blade of Vengeance or Cleave. And now they've just moved it over here. This is another single target talent. It kind of goes with this single target line over here, which I like when it makes sense, right? So if you stay perfectly left, you're kind of like in a really single target-y thing. I kind of like that, actually. I think it's really good for new players, especially, or someone new to a spec. Like, okay, I kind of get it. This is the single target side. I kind of get it. This is more cleavy and AoE down here side. And I like when that kind of fits together like that. It doesn't always have to be obvious, but I like it when it's a little bit obvious for the people who aren't as hardcore or whatever. So we have that here. So now we have Heart of the Crusader now has two points that you can put into it. And I don't know if we'll even ever use this talent. I don't know anything yet. There's like a bunch of stuff has to be retested. This is kind of exciting. But now we have 2 points of Heart of Crusader. I did a little bit of testing with it. I wasn't too thrilled with the results, but so you have 2 points in Heart of Crusader. And what I really like is the placement of this. So it's a 2-point talent, but look where it's placed. It's placed in a way to where you can put 1 point into it without filling it out, and you're not blocked. Right? You're not blocked from getting something else in any way. It's just kind of here. So if there's a build or a tier set bonus that calls for using Heart of the Crusader, you can put 1 point in it, you can put 2 points in it, whatever, but it's not blocking you from using anything else. Look, it's right in the middle here. Everything can go around it. This is how you do, if you're going to have 2-point talents, this is how you do them. Over here, so this is where Consecrated Blade used to be on a choice node with Divine Hammer. Now it's just Divine Hammer. So clearly they kind of want Divine Hammer to be a thing. I haven't done a video on Divine Hammer yet. I don't like it, is my reality of right now, at least how it works right now. And I've heard some Death Knights complain about their Breath of Sindragosa, I believe is their similar spell. I do not like Divine Hammer as it is now. That could change. I might not be playing it right. I might not be doing it right. Because I've so far I haven't like outsourced and looked to anybody else or whatever. I've just tried to do it from what makes sense to me, and for me, I don't like it. But they're trying to make it a thing. So maybe it'll be a tier set bonus, maybe it'll be something, or maybe they'll change it to make it a little bit more effective. I'm not sure here, but this is just a point that's pretty much never going to be taken, which does mean that you'll have to take some points over here to get down to like Blessed Champion, because before you'd have Consecrated Blade no matter what, and so you could just take Blessed Champion from there. And in AoE, sometimes you might not have either of these selected. There are times, at least in the past, where you might not have neither of these selected. So it does, but then again, you have a pretty good talent point here they might want to get to, so maybe it won't matter. Not a huge deal. Don't want to talk about it too much. Another 2-point talent now, Zealot's Fervor. So 40% auto attack speed. Now, I've already seen some people saying this is probably going to be nerfed. I kind of agree with that. So Zealot's Fervor now does 40% attack speed, and I combined this with Crusading Strikes, obviously, which you normally did anyways at 20%. 40% with it is very nice. It's a good amount of holy power generation. It was for me at least, just swapping these talents around, it was a DPS increase over Templar Strikes, even with Templar Strikes being very, very strong. Like, it's currently really strong. So if nothing else, I imagine they're going to be extremely comparable. But you do notably have to allot 3 talent points to do this. For me, like I said, it was actually more DPS than having the 1 talent point in Templar Strikes and having, like a point in Ire and a point in Heart or something like that, right? So it's still more damage for me personally, but I've barely tested this out yet. I'll do individual videos on stuff when I've tested it more. This was just a little quick testing right after the news came out. So this is just basically spur of the moment. And then lastly, let's talk about, did I kill Vanguard of Justice? Of course, like I said, I just did a positive video on it, to be fair. I just did a positive video saying, like, if you took everything, it kind of works. Holy Flames. So this is, I see the vision again, but what's nice about it is there is some straightforward stuff with it too. So Divine Storm deals more damage, and it spreads your Expurg onto 4 targets. You deal 3% increased holy damage as well, which is also pretty good for your single target. So this is a single target talent still. I guess they just wanted, I don't know the thought process really, because this was a single target choice with the AoE Heart of Vengeance or Blade of Vengeance choice, and now again it's kind of like a cleave choice. I guess it's more of a cleave choice, right? So now you're choosing cleave versus pure AoE. I kind of like that. That's kind of interesting, right? So the reason why this is a cleave choice is because it's only hitting 4 targets, and you're not gonna be able to keep it up all the time, right? It's just gonna be a little bit extra bleed damage. And of course, this kind of fits well with their thinking behind Judge, Jury, Executioner with hitting 4 additional targets. So it's like, if I'm cleaving, if I'm doing a council fight in a raid, right, you might want to take Holy Flames plus Judge, Jury, Executioner, and that will allow you to put a little bit of bleed damage on without while also increasing your single target damage, right? Your with the holy damage, it's increasing your single target damage, and but you don't have it up constantly like you do with Blade of Vengeance. So the only issue I see with this talent as it is now, right? So my initial feedback on this would be, I still think in those situations I'm talking about that it might just be better to constantly have Blade of Vengeance and have constant ticking damage, especially when we have something like Penitence and stuff too, to increase that damage more. Our tier set bonus increases the damage of Blade of Justice. This is something that, like, right now I don't know if this is, like, I might, I'll do a video on Holy Flames specifically after I play with it more, and I will try to solve the problem that I will try to solve the problem that they have identified, because they're trying to solve it with Vanguard of Justice and now Holy Flames, and we'll try to get there some way. I'll think about it. Heck, if you have ideas right away, like, okay, this would try to think of a cleave ability that makes Judge, Jury, that kind of works with Judge, Jury, Executioner, right? So try to think of a cleave ability that works with Judge Jury and has this kind of the feel of Holy Flames, right? Would be, if you want to leave some comments below about that, because I could take those into consideration as well when I do a video about it. But yeah, this is just a talent setup that I just was playing with. Like I said, nothing, absolutely nothing has been fully learned yet. I was playing around for like 15 minutes, messing around a couple talents, changing them around, seeing what did more damage right away and stuff like that. So I guess the overall takeaway is really, really good changes to the talent tree layout. The Crusader Aura no longer needing to be taken. Still only having two 2-point talents and having them be in places that are not in the way, right? That's what gets to some other. I don't know if you know some other specs. There's other specs where they have 2-point talents just blocking their way, and it's so annoying. Or it's in something silly like Blessed Champion. Like the 1 point in Blessed Champion was almost never even worth using. Like it's either a 2-point because you're taking it for AoE, or you just never take it. And so just having it be 1 point just makes so much more sense. So those are huge W's right there with that change. So a small single target nerf, some huge W's as far as layout goes. Overall damage hasn't changed that much, right? It's just that slight single target nerf. Our AoE damage is basically untouched because of this, I believe, because I think you'd still take Blade of Vengeance for AoE. And so I think our AoE, if anything, maybe we have an extra talent point because we have that baseline, the Consecration Consecrated Blade is baseline now. So if anything, it might even have an extra talent point for AoE. So that's another interesting thing to look at there. I have a single target pulled up. But yeah, so overall, a win. A slight little nerf on single target, but I wouldn't be too worried about it as a Paladin. This is clearly going to be better. And again, once again, so far Mythic Plus hasn't really been touched. The Mythic Plus is really fun. They can always tune the numbers up even more if we don't end up being strong enough. But Mythic Plus is really fun already, so we'll see where we go from here. I'll plan on doing a video specifically on Holy Flames and and some other things as well. But this is a huge W. I wanted to get this out here. My first initial thoughts on it. That's going to be it for this one. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. If you're already a subscriber, I encourage you to go check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody have a good one.